ahead, I'll give you the point here.
Okay. Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert with the Ted Show. We're back, we're here, we're alive, we're blessed. I'm very excited to have my friend, dear friend, amazing supporter, great guy, Anthony Billitteri on the show today with the Property Pros. What's up, buddy? So we are here. We wanted to continue to do the show. We want to be respectful of self-quarantining and be careful, but Anthony's been spraying that Freedom Purell mist all morning long, so we're good to go. So I feel like we need to continue to do this kind of stuff. We need to continue to interact at whatever level is safe for you and important for you. And for me, this is it. So getting you guys out something to look at, some kind of content to view, and a message, which we all have messages to give. And Anthony has a great one today. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you.
It's been a long time coming. You were a hard person to nail down, and recently he kept telling me no. And recently Anthony did a video, and I saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, you said no to me, but here you go. So now it's time for you to come on. So
exactly, you caught me.
I caught you. All right, so it's really good for people to get to know you, kind of your origin story. So tell them a little bit about you.
As far as me, work related. I actually came from the timeshare industry before I did real estate, but
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was actually a timeshare baby. It was my first job, but I'm kind of a dinosaur in both. It's weird because I started at 16 driving golf carts at one of the timeshare resorts and had a good career in timeshare, but one day a good friend of mine, Danny Hernandez,
he just came on and said, hey, you macaroons.
Oh, there he is. So Danny actually took me out of the timeshare world into the real estate world quite a few years ago now.
He's such a good guy.
He is.
We love Danny.
Yeah,
but what was the difference? Because I think timeshare, people understand timeshare can be difficult. It's a really great training ground for you. I definitely have to say that. But what did you do when you first got out? Did you open Property Pros, or did you become a realtor? You became a realtor with Danny.
Absolutely. Well, so when you go in, you're not selling a home. You're marketing to get there, and that's very important. I think a lot of realtors, that's great information. Is you're not there to push a home on anyone. You're really there to market and then answer questions for them and protect them.
So what would you say you took away from timeshare that you were able to convert? Because I have a lot of friends who are in it, and it definitely gets to this nitty gritty. It wears people down. But like you said, I really feel like real estate, traditional real estate, is a very relationship driven business.
Correct.
You're gonna have long-term relationships with these people.
Correct. For me, the biggest thing, and all my pros out there will know, we talk about trust, need, help, and hurry, and that's the one thing I took from timeshare into the real estate world was you don't talk to people, it's trust. And once they trust you, they'll tell you what they need, and you can help them, and you can close the door. But it's all about relationships in real estate, and you can stay in trust and need for forever.
How do you feel it is in the world? Because our topic is bringing your passion, basically to get the job done, to handle the job at hand. So your passion is, I'm guessing, people. How a lot of people have a passion for people, they don't know how to translate it into business. So what do you feel like you do differently? I mean, I think I know from outside looking in, but share with them some of the things that you do in your office and your business.
My passion, yeah, I guess you would say. Anybody that really knows me personally, I know baseball was my background. Played sports my whole life, so
see, I didn't know that.
Yeah, team is a big thing for me. I play college sports, things like that, and I bring that love for. I love to coach now. I coached baseball for quite a few years, so for me, I'm an entrepreneur by spirit, but bringing my team concept is what really my passion. I love to coach. I love to train. That's kind of our organic growth comes from the one-on-one, and it's not about a business plan. I think it's just me.
What do you do differently with your team? Like some of the observations I can make is that when I'm around your team, and this could be any team, where he's obviously got a real estate company, an agency, brokerage, but it could be any team. Your team feels to me to be incredibly cohesive and supportive. Are you a believer that that starts with from the top down, and then how do you build that in when you have all of the different personalities?
Great question. Years ago, went to a conference, and it was about team building. And there was Barbara Vance, which you probably know Barbara Vance.
She's been on the show.
Correct. I don't know her. I'd love to meet her one day, but I took something from that, and it was, you're one big team. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be your number one producer. If they go against the grain of team, they can leave. And we preach that from the top of our company to the bottom. When you're new, with our company in particular, is the people that have been here are going to help you.
Right.
And they came in with that same precedent. So we love to help each other. And, I think a lot of it comes to, we know birthdays. Everybody gets a happy birthday. We know we've got a lot of Property Pros babies since the company opened. We do family barbecues. That's kind of what builds our cohesive. So when you see us, we're kind of running packs because we enjoy each other's company, and we know we're truly a team.
It's like a family. That's
Yes.
how it seems to be.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people don't know how to create that, and some people don't even know how to respond to that. So when you bring somebody onto the team, you've done as much work as you possibly can, I assume, in the beginning to make sure that they are a fit. Because just because Anthony, in my opinion, has a great environment that he's created, it doesn't mean that everybody who's coming in is going to respond to that.
Correct. And I think in the last year or so, we know our culture now. We're still a baby in this industry. So, we're a 7-year-old company, and in the beginning it was bring in, but then you kind of filter by nature. And now we're at a point as a company that our managers are saying, this person's a fit or they're not. And versus just bringing people on, we're really trying to keep the culture now, and that's our direction for the future. We're not looking to be the biggest, but we want to be strong together.
Well, culturally, I think people throw that word around, but you guys really, in my opinion, it's like Freedom too. I feel like Freedom does the same thing. They want to create this culture, this environment where people feel free to be themselves, free to do good work, free to be creative, and then yet still have that assistance, support, help, where they can do the things that they want to try.
Correct. I think we're very similar. I've had conversations with Brandon, and the conversation is about the team concept and working together and being one, and that's where you succeeded. Power in numbers, bottom line.
And numbers that are not cancerous. We were talking earlier before the show. You have to be careful when you have created that culture to not begin to deviate too much from it, because it can let the wrong people in. And by the wrong people, it doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means that it doesn't fit the culture. But those people, because they don't fit the culture, can change the culture whether you want them to or not, I think.
Absolutely. And that's what I took from Barbara Vance is you could have the number one producer in your company, but if that number one producer is knocking down 3-4 people and hurting the company as a whole, sometimes you have to take a step back. It might hurt your pockets for 3-4 months, but when you come back as a team and you add 5 people to that one that are all working together in unison, you end up with much more quality environment.
You do, and I think that's what we do too at our company. I think any company that is really trying to create that environment and that culture that remains intact as far as what your basic tenets are, your basic foundation. You could be the number one producer in whatever your industry is. You could be the number one guy that just got out of the best school on the planet and you want to hire him or you want to hire her and they just don't fit. I just encourage you not to break that mold. I think the mold that you've created is so important.
You ever heard, I'm sure we all heard the term, one bad apple, or don't put all your eggs in one basket, because in this industry, unfortunately, that one person that will run you ragged will also leave you in the cold, and then everybody that wanted to be a team doesn't feel that they were. So it's most important to be that. And even if it costs money out of my pocket to build it the way that I want to build it, then I'm willing to do that versus just throw it out there and not have loyalty.
I love that. Jen Waterman says passion and purpose help build sustainable business, and I think that's right. You have a passion for people. You also have a passion for helping people. Like there's one thing to want to be around a bunch of people, then there's a whole other passion to want to help people. And what I gather from what you do, and I've seen it firsthand, is that you really want to see them build in the way that makes sense for them. That's the other thing that I think happens. There's too much cookie cutter. So yes, you want to keep your environment safe from that cancer, but you also want to have some flexibility and creativity. So when you bring somebody in, person A and person B aren't going to learn the same way. They're not going to do business the same way. They're not going to react exactly the same way. And you've created that environment. What do you do for them that you think sets you apart? What kind of activities or team building do you do in the office that you think is really important?
Well, when I started, I looked at it as myself when I started in the business, and I said, I didn't know what to do. I put my card through a window for the company because I wanted a certain commission plan. I put my card through a window, filled out my paperwork. I don't think I ever met the broker. Went home thinking all my friends are going to call me because now I'm a realtor.
Right.
And a month later, I'm like, oh, I got to figure something out. So I learned quickly that I can't do business the same way that you do or the same way that anyone does. So I think something, in particularly with our company and myself, that helps us is we do a one-on-one broker training. And the first thing I tell people is, you may not be a door knocker. You may be a door knocker. You may be a video person. You may not. So let's sit down, find out what your personal goal is. And from there, let's create you a niche. I mean, I have some people that we sit down and say, okay, you live in a certain area and you want to network that area, then that's how we're going to do it. Some people say, hey, I want to be all over. I want this. We're really trying to just create realtors long term, in their own niche, because I think those are the ones that survive no matter what.
I think the listening part is true as well, because you're listening to what they're telling you instead of you already deciding what their niche is. And I think a lot of business owners make that mistake. You want to, like, for example, in my position, there's no other position out there like I have with Freedom. And they listened to what my strengths were and then helped create a position and a path for me that made sense instead of me trying to fit into the mold of what they expected traditionally out of a role like mine, like a loan officer. And I think that's what a lot of companies do. They create this, okay, this is how it is, here's your job description. Okay, I know you don't really fit into it, I'm not listening to what you want, but you look good on paper, so we're gonna bring you on and we're gonna make you one of these people, and it just doesn't work.
Correct, and I think we were discussing that a little bit earlier, that your niche is just that, run with it. That's what makes you different. There's many realtors out there right now, so you have to be different. You have to come up with a plan that's your niche. I think that's something that we really try to preach.
Thank you, Candace, for that. I think people are, we were talking earlier, hungry for some sort of human contact when they're
right.
Isolating. I think you have to, when you're talking about business, let's talk a little bit about how this is impacting what's going on in the world. How do you feel it's impacting your business, and are you making any adjustments or changes to the way that you normally did business in order to accommodate different people's thought process on isolation or not isolation, quarantining or not quarantining? What are you guys doing?
Well, we're changing with the time as well. I think that coming through this, we're going to learn. I mean, you have to take every opportunity. When the market crashed, some people ran for the hills and that was it. Some people adapted, and some of those people are very successful out there. You know who you are from that. So what we're looking at is now we're doing Zoom meetings and trainings. I'm working out deals with developers right now to do inventory homes where our agents can meet at certain times and do virtual tours and get special incentives if they're working with the company. So I think as we were talking earlier with some of the restaurants now that are having curbside service, we're going to overcome this. This is not a long-term crash like we dealt with in the past. Let's lick our wounds for a couple weeks. Let's learn some new ways of marketing and doing business that we're going to implement long-term, and the market's going to come back on fire, because right now it's all building up. People are at home looking at Zillow, looking at your searches on MLS, and they're waiting to buy. They're just waiting for the right time.
I think that's so true. I feel like there's an opportunity here to really reevaluate the way we do business, and then to be uber creative on how to address that. Like you mentioned earlier, the curbside service, new normal. We're in a new normal now. Everything's going to change, and I know that once we adapt as we are to the way things are, people aren't going to want to necessarily go back to the old way. They might like this. I kind of like this. Okay, we have to do things differently. We have to be creative.
Yes.
I like this one-on-one. I like some of this stuff where we're really focusing in a different way, and it's making us think differently.
Oh yeah, there's a term that we use in the office sometimes is your circumstances create you. So we're in a circumstance. Let's create something. Let's think outside the box. Let's do some good things that we've never done before. It's a learning process.
It is a learning process, and I think that people get caught up in the frenzy, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. You should be careful, but you should also really take this is a great time for you to evaluate where you're at. Where are you at in business? Where are you at in your life? What are you doing that is productive? What is surviving what you're doing productive? Is it surviving this change, or do you really need to adapt? And if we could take a little bit of, I get it that Netflix is amazing and you want to binge watch Netflix. There are so many opportunities out there. We're seeing that people are still out in the market. We
Yes.
are having contracts come in. This is on the real estate side. We're having refis come in. People still want to meet with me. People still want to do the show. So there's a hunger, there's a need, a desire to still continue at some.
Title companies they're working and they're closing your loan. As far as realtors getting out there doing the virtual tours and things like that, you're still working, just in a different manner. That's all we're still getting. As a company, we're still getting contracts in. Maybe not the rate we were, but we're still doing business. So we're not flatlining. We're not in 2008 when you're walking through a neighborhood and there's 10 signs on one block.
Yeah.
So
I have to ask you something personal. Wendy you're such an open book. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah.
Wendy Stewart, who was just on the show Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
she's such an amazing human being. She will make comments I see, and she'll say, keep it close to you, Anthony. I think that she's trying to protect you, because I think a lot of times, because you're such a giving, caring person, you share
in the back. So everybody always asks me, hey, you work for Wendy? And I'm always like, yeah, I do. But, we knock a lot of ideas together, and it's made us successful together. So, no, absolutely, I use her with everything. And a lot of what I preach, and Wendy's probably watching right now, but, she was one of my first agents that bought in. She didn't have a computer, went to the library to use internet, but if I said it, she went out and saw if it worked, and it obviously works. And she came in as a manager for me, and like I said, she's invaluable to me, as well as Raul and Viviana. We build through our own.
I love
real
that.
Simple.
I think it's important what you just said about Wendy, for example. A lot of people want to come in, they think they know the business. And so what Wendy did, and this is for anybody who's trying to get into another business, they want to learn from someone. They want to learn, but they want to learn and they have ideas. So I think what Wendy did so well is that she listened to your experience, and she took what you said, and not with a grain of salt, but she actually implemented it. And I think a lot of people, when you come in, like I've had people come work with me, not on the freedom side, but on other businesses, and their biggest challenge or their biggest mistake was they wanted to do it their way. Well, I'd already perfected it and made more mistakes than they'll ever make in their lifetime, and I know what works and what doesn't. And I think that a lot of people get caught up, well, I've got these new ideas. Well, new ideas are great, but you still have to learn the basics.
And sometimes they're not new ideas.
That's correct.
It's not, I have an entrepreneurial spirit, like I said earlier, so a lot of times I come with this great idea, and then I Google and go, oh, yeah, it worked, it didn't work, it failed. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's, this is not a new industry, and successful people that have been here for a very long time have one thing in common, and they infiltrate communities. They're the neighborhood people. No matter what market, your neighborhood expert always survives, and we try to teach a lot of that. And Wendy caught on to that, and is very prevalent in the St. Cloud area. Even though she works all over Central Florida,
Right.
her home base where she actually farms is all just, you know, stuff of learning together and implementing things. And if you do it, and for all you guys out there in real estate that might be sitting at home right now, I don't know what to do the basics. Get into, you know, Remind's an amazing program. Start dialing the expires and withdrawals and things like that. I guess, you know, and here I am, Ted. Wendy says keep it close. And I'm telling her training tips out
it's
there.
Your natural, though. I love that about you. I think that I'm a big believer that the more authentic you are and the more you share, that it may burn you. You may be hurt more than other people, which I know you've been and I have too. But in general, the seeds that you plant and the wonderful gifts that you get back, the rewards are worth every agony that I've had to deal with. Oh, I just don't want to change.
Correct. And you know what? Good heart and doing things with a good intention eventually overcomes. Yeah, you might get your feelings hurt or this or that, but if you stay your path, you end up with a lot of good people that would take their shirt off the back for you the same way you would do for them, and that's what really creates something nice. And it's not just with my company. I mean, it's relationships. We've known each other a couple of years now, Ted, and you know, it's like you call me anytime. Hey, I need this. I need it. Let's do it, or vice versa. So,
correct.
That's what it's all about long term.
I agree. All right. So how do you balance your personal life with professional life? Because as a business owner or an entrepreneur, an independent contractor like your realtors are, how do you balance that?
Very, very difficult. That's a good question. For me, I've learned over time when I had to turn it off. It's very easy in this business to go. When I started my company, 4 o'clock in the morning, I was at the office because I had this great idea and I was going to put it all together somehow or do this. And I kind of learned, you know, in my role, and real estate's a lifestyle, but in my particular role, I've evolved a little bit. So I make sure I'm there for my team every day. I'm usually in the office by 9, 10 o'clock, and I work a full day, but I cut it off at 5. And my team will contact me 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, but usually it's very minor things. But my majority of my work is Monday through Friday, and go in and work my butt off. And it's helped with the home life. I have a little guy that's 4 years old, and I like to come home and be around him, and I've tailored to that. But I've always felt that real estate, you can tailor your lifestyle, because it is a lifestyle. So if on the weekends I want to do baseball with my son all weekend, then I'm going to work my butt off all week. You can get real estate done in 4 or 5 hours a day.
It's all, it's the balance, right? And you also have to kind of plan a little bit for that, and you have to set boundaries, which I think a lot of us, because we're all entrepreneurial, we just want to do everything and we want to be everything to everyone. And that's also such a thing that can be very detrimental in your overall business. So I love that balance part. I mean, the main reason I thought about it is because you took some balance time yesterday when I couldn't get a hold of you. And so the balance time is so critical, though. So you guys are having probably a little more balance time than you would like right now, and then you're used to. But I say take it in. I encourage you to take it all in and realize that yes, you can still do work and have a life, and you just have to figure out what works for you, what balance works for you. All right, so we're going to share all of Anthony's contact information, how you can reach out to him, how you can learn more about him and the Property Pros and what he does and all the ideas that he wants to share with everybody, which is so gracious of him. And I appreciate you coming on, because I think it's so important that we continue to have discussions and we continue to show people that we're still interacting as human beings one-on-one. It doesn't have to be as crazy, I think, right now as it is out there.
And I absolutely appreciate having you. I know I'm always like, oh, I'm not a camera guy, Ted, and you know, but
you wouldn't know it from today.
But I do like doing this. But you know, like I said, I'm not much of a camera guy, but I really doing it with you is very easy, because the conversation comes so easy.
It goes easy, right?
Absolutely.
All right, so I like to ask all the guests the last question. So you mentor a lot of people. You obviously have mentored a lot of people in your life. Can you give a shout out to somebody who mentored you along the way? Maybe somebody you want to show some gratitude or thanks that helped you personally or professionally or both along the way in your journey. We want people to give more thanks, more out loud thanks. And so, especially in this day and age, so give somebody a shout
Absolutely. Shouts out, which I already did. Danny Hernandez, like I said,
Danny.
years ago, he came into the office and said, I got these guys and they're taking these apartments and turn them into condos. Let's go into real estate. And I was like, nah. And then he came back. He was persistent a couple months later, and he got me involved traveling all over the United States selling condos. So that's definitely a big shout out. Another big shout out to my team that pushes me every day, because I do it for them. You know, when I had 10, 20 agents, I was like, why did I do this? So shout out to Wendy, Raul, Viviana. They're my core. They're my heart. So I do it because of their families, and we all eat. So
I love it.
That's
All
my
right, brother.
shout outs.
Thank you so much. We love you guys. We'll be back. We've got 2 shows today, a couple more shows coming up. If you have something you want to talk about, you want to come on the show, I'm going to continue to do